Alrighty. I think things are going. Things are happening. Let's see if I can get everything properly set up before anyone notices. Oh. Let's see. I'm gonna need to do this, aren't I? There we go. Good evening. Good evening. Just kidding. It's kind of like still not really evening because the sun is up, but it's 6 o'clock, so it's evening, you know. Let me go ahead and post the link. Alrighty. I think we're in there. Let's see. Levels. Oh, whoops. Of course I close the chat. Hello? Is anyone out there? Does anyone hear that? Greetings. Happy Friday. Hopefully you guys had a good week. Mine was pretty alright. It was busy, which is good. Yeah, it really is afternoon, isn't it? It really is afternoon, 6 p.m. It really is afternoon, quite frankly. All right. As you can see, it's only me tonight. All right. It is only I, which means things are going to be a little bit crazy, a little bit more solo, which means that I guess we have maybe more time for Feef, but less time may be required for Feef, if that makes sense. So I guess we'll see what happens. But thank you all for tuning in. And I guess let's just jump right into this. So we got Glackinator 11.2. All right. By Glackneck. Ah, yes. What an interesting dude. What a vibe, dude. Honestly, I think that your brand is quite cool. But yeah, let's get into this.
I am going to get shot and killed by an elementary school teacher from Bellingham, Washington.
And then he was mental.
You thought that's all I had? We haven't even gotten fucking started yet. Run it back one more time so they know the motif.
Relax, I'll handle it. I am the angry pumpkin.
Wow. To start off the evening, what a track. What a great track. Before I critique it at all, I just want to say that was very cool. I thought the motif was nice. It was very splinky, very scraggly, and I don't know, like that was wacky, bro. That was very wacky. In a great way, of course. Yeah. So let's get into these questions. Will the Spice Girls sample get me fucked if I try to distribute this? I mean, this shitty thing is you and I both know the answer to this, and you're not gonna like it. You know, like that's the really rough thing. Unless you like pay for that kind of I guess distribution, like to be able to distribute it in that way or to be able to use it in that way. Which requires some level of licensing, right? So unless you can get the licensing to use it in your song, then, you know, there's always a risk, right? Now, is the risk truly that scary? It depends, right? Because I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I feel like depending on how monetarily invested you are in this song, you know, like how, like, this is the thing, right? Like, if someone was to go like, this is $1 million track, right? And you make $1 million off of it, but you have this issue, right? Where you use this sample, you know, it's fucking super silly, but like people will come for that money. I trust. So my opinion is don't use the vocal. All right. Because the song is fucking amazing without the vocal, 100%. Like, it does not need the vocal at all. It does not need that moment in order to be a fucking banger, in my opinion. All right. So keep that in mind. This is all opinion, but that is really how I feel about that. All right. In the second drop, A section, you pull back the complex layered basses into just one. I think it works as like a subversion, but let me know what you think. I mean, I didn't notice anything bad about it. Are you talking about, let's see, this section?
You thought that was it? You thought that's all I had? We haven't even gotten fucking started yet. Run it back one more time so they know the motif.
Do you mean this or do you mean this?
Relax, I'll handle it.
Both sound fine. You know, I don't know. I feel like all of that sounded fine. As far as like the building and releasing of tension, you know, I didn't feel like anything was like super weird. It is weird, you know, like though I see what you're saying now. Like it's not like an obvious release of tension, but it works. So if that's what your question is there, should I try adding more layers for altering the ones I have? Or altering the ones I have. I mean, I feel like it's as full as it needs to be, especially the first drop is as full as it needs to be. Is the palette good enough? Yeah, I feel like, I don't know why you're asking me these questions. I feel like this song definitely has a very good motif. It has a really good mix. It has a very good original style of sound design, which is great. So yeah, you're definitely yeah, and I'm trying to be nitpicky. I think the big thing, there's like there could be an argument for you could have an argument for maybe like a little bit more timbral variation of stuff, but I don't know if it's necessary. You get what I mean? Like I feel like this song is like the style that it is. As soon as you start changing the timbre more, it becomes like something different that might not be as good. but I think there is an argument that could be made for that, just from the personal, like, opinionated perspective, because I feel like more timbral information, the more complex level, like, or at least in the right way of complexity, the more timbral information that you get throughout the song, in my opinion, makes it feel more interesting. So like, some of my favorite tracks are ones like Cube is a great example by Frequent, and I forget who else is on that, but I know Frequent's on that, a couple of other people, Hudson Lee, I think, and Copycat. Yeah, I think the three of them made that track. Anyway, long story short, that track is a great example of a song of like timbral evolution, and like I feel like songs like this could benefit from a little bit more of that. Although you do a good job with the flow of tension, right? So you have like really good progression, like you have like the build ups and the drops, and obviously like all of the stuff feels like it flows nicely. But I'm just thinking of ways where you could, like, you know, push it that like one extra little, like, holy fuck, this is awesome factor. But it's already quite amazing. So yeah, should you try and add more layers? I think the answer is no, but if you want to, you definitely can. So that's my answer to that. Do you think I have leeway to slam the master more? The bill seems to be technically louder than the drop.
And then he was Newsage.
Yes, you could. I don't know what you're doing from a mastering perspective or even like a mixing perspective, but my recommendation to you is to start utilizing the clip to zero, clipping technique, and essentially just, if you are already doing that, I can't tell if you are, it doesn't sound like you're clipping at all. This sounds like a very dynamic song, which is I think why it's so cool, because it's so dynamic. As well as like complex and unique and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think limiting and clipping would benefit this kind of music a lot during these drops. So you can see here that there is a lot of dynamics based on the song, right? Like you can even look at the waveform and you can just tell that this is a very dynamic song. You can feel it too, but even if you can't really feel it very well, just look at all of these peaks and valleys throughout the waveform. Whereas, you know, in a less dynamic track, you can kind of see how all of this seemingly, you know what I mean? Like this is like, I would say, a good chunk of good dynamics. So as far as Williams track, we'll have to listen to that. But yeah, that's like a good example of I would say like a little bit more well-rounded, and I would say, the word isn't polished, but you're trying to push the sounds to the maximum loudness without them sounding bad, right? So clipping to zero can help you do that. And yeah, I think that if you're not doing that, start doing it. And if you are doing it, clip a little bit more aggressively, you know, like shave off, a little bit more before you boost at the end, and you will get, I guess, really good results, at least in my own experience. But this is already quite good. So it's one of those things where, you know, maybe all it needs is a little bit of clipping on the master, right? Maybe you don't have to go through the whole entire clip to zero. But, okay, so yes, there are. And basically it's kind of an endeavor, all right? Like the reality is, like, clip to zero is a really, really cool technique, but the only video series that I know of on YouTube is from Baphometrics, who teaches, they teach you how to make, you know, the whole clip to zero thing work and what it means. And, you know, like they basically will teach you all about it, but they are not the easiest. I mean, their teaching style is not always the most, I guess, like, helpful to some, you know, like for me, it was very hard to understand what they were trying to explain until like maybe I had to rewatch it like twice, you know what I mean? Like not even and then I also had to skip through certain parts the second time, because there was like certain things that I really knew I needed to understand more, and then other things that were just kind of like not as necessary to the topic of specifically clip to zero, right? They're still like probably like beneficial like nuggets of information, but they just weren't related to Clip to Zero as much. So you may have to do a little bit of that. I do teach people Clip to Zero as well for one-on-one like hourly stuff. So if you ever want to learn that, you can always book an hour with me or however long you want. But yeah, usually I can, especially if you're on Ableton, I can definitely get you going within an hour. But it's kind of ridiculous. I don't know. It's one of those things where like, yeah, it's definitely possible to learn. Okay. And Bathymetrics does a great job of explaining it. But if you're out there at Bathymetrics and if you ever do somehow watch this video, I do appreciate you and everything you do. But it was very boring and hard to watch your videos. Okay. But your knowledge and wisdom when it comes to the idea of Clip to Zero is most definitely the sauce. So yeah, Bathymetrics, everybody. That's who I recommend you guys look up. And that's anybody, right? Anyone who's looking to like make loud, clear, clean music should definitely understand that Clip to Zero exists, because it lets you understand what you like. The idea of Clip to Zero is essentially this is what the music is going to sound like loud. Yeah. No, yeah, Keegan. Yeah, I trust me, dude. It was a journey, but it was a worthwhile one. Okay. And it does have all the information in it. It's just really hard to understand sometimes. But anyway, Bathymetrics with a PH, not an F. I'm sorry. I should probably spell it because it is quite a, I think it's this. This is, I believe, how it is spelled. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that was our little hiatus away from that. But anyway, I'm thinking you could go about that route. You could go about that route with this track. The reality is that by using compression, limiting, clipping, any kind of dynamic control, that's how you get your track to be more squarey. You know, by having more dynamic control, your tracks will end up being a little bit more square-like, right? Like they end up being a little bit more smushed, and that's definitely the vibe, right? Like right now, it seems like most people are a fan of this kind of energy. Good stuff, Poyo. Jeez. That's a juicy looking wave file right there, man. I don't even have to like listen to it. But anyway, like that's kind of the idea. And the way that you do that is clipping, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. Clipping, limiting, compression, all these kinds of dynamic control. That is how you get it to be at that point. And if you do it like, basically if you do these things in kind of moderate amounts along the way, so like if you start from the individual instruments and then move up to the bus level and then move up to like maybe the bigger bus level and then maybe the master or whatever, right? If you do that with all of this dynamic control, you eventually will have a very, very dynamic and yet not so dynamic song. It's hard to explain, but it ends up feeling really, really loud, really clear, really clean, and really crispy. But you also end up like obviously having kind of the best of both worlds, where you still kind of retained everything good about the dynamics of the instruments, just because of the way, you know, mixing works. You know, not all these compressors will be full wet, right? Like not all these limiters will be very aggressive, but eventually, because of all of these subtle nudges and sometimes aggressive nudges, eventually you'll get to this point where your track is cohesive and this one mixed unit, especially at the drop, right? Like the drops where those things, in my opinion, are really important. Yeah, and because of that, Ian, because of that, that means that you also have to be conscious about the fact that you're losing dynamics by doing some of these things. So there's often the intentionality of dynamics when you start to do Clip to Zero stuff, meaning, you know, you have to be like, okay, I need to have this breakdown feel less intense than this drop, because like if I don't intentionally think about that in that way, this breakdown might feel like almost as intense as the drop, just because of the way the compression is working and the way that everything feels, right? Like, especially if you're carrying one instrument from one, I guess like section into the next section of the track. But yeah, definitely an amazing track, dude. I'm nitpicking, right? I'm nitpicking because this track is really phenomenal. But yeah, I would like to see it like really loud. You know what I mean? Like that like crispy, clean, clipped, kind of just smushed a little bit. Just a wee little bit of smush. Okay. Anyway, that is my opinion. Does the art go hard? Yeah, the art's pretty cool. I don't know about hard. It's definitely, I guess like it works, like it works with the vibe. Like I guess like, what does hard mean? Like, I guess it's cool if that, like, I don't know. It's a vibe. It's good. I like it. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like hard though. Like, but it's good. It's fucking awesome. I like the tiger aspect. It's very like Aztec-y is the vibe that I get from it. So yeah, very, very nice. Alien, but Aztec, like it's interesting. Anyway, thank you, Glackneck. That was a wonderful journey. That was a great song, a wonderful one to start off the evening / afternoon. It really is an afternoon, but but it's 6 p.m. All right, we're like, isn't that evening? All right, anyway, French glitch. All right, here we go. We're about to be glitching, and I'm assuming in French.
Je ne peux plus t'aimer. Le cœur a découvert. Je n'ai rien à y gagner. Si je te perds.
Well, that was kind of crazy, if I do say so myself. What an interesting song. This was an experiment in reverby, glitchy vocals. Any tips on processing interesting vocal chops? Let's see here. I feel like you did pretty good. The big thing you can do that I think is fun around anything that's chopped is sort of stutter around it. So if you're using thing like I think buffer override is a good example of a tool that can do this, which is a VST. But basically it's like just a bunch of like very glitchy delays, and you could probably do it with a delay at like a really low millisecond amount. But it almost creates like these what are they called? I guess they're exponential rhythms is I think the technical term for these things. But yeah, I find that kind of stuff sounds really great with anything that is glitchy or chopped. And in the context of a track like this, I think it would work great, considering that it's French glitch and, you're trying to create like the glitchy energy. So yeah, I would say, yeah, buffer override for sure is a VST. Be careful though. I don't know if you're on Ableton or what. In my experience, it does have a tendency to crash Ableton for me. Not always, not often, not like super often, but definitely more often than a lot of shit. It definitely is like not 100% like perfect, if you know what I'm saying. But it works great. It works great. Just be careful, okay? Don't lose all your shit like me a couple of times. Anyway, yeah. I wasn't hurt at all, you guys. I was fine. Anyway, so glitchy to the core, exactly. So yeah, the idea is buffer override. You can also use things like delays, shaper box, infiltrator. Those are great tools for things like that. You can use, if you're in FL Studio, you can use grow speed. You can use, anything like that. Stutter edit, that's one. There we go. A lot of things that can kind of create that effect. But yeah, it's a great effect, and I think it feels good because what it does is it like accentuates those glitched moments even more than they already are. It's kind of, think of it as like a blur, but the blur is the amount of like glitchiness you're experiencing, right? So you're having like these little blips on like the outside, and then like it leads into like the full sound that is dry, or at least more dry. And then of course, then you go back to like the other glitchy sounds. I don't know. It's just like, I think it's a good way to develop the glitchiness. Anyway, how to get more separation between the bass and vocal chops for call and response type action. So the big thing about call and response, and this is just something that I've noticed, is it's essentially just taking the instruments and in focus and kind of doing like a back and forth between them. So if you have, I don't know, like a saw wave and a square wave, that saw wave is going to take up like the first quarter, and then the square wave would take up like the second quarter. Obviously, like this is just like a really basic example, but it's that back and forth, right, of focal point instruments. Okay, so when it comes to the mix down, when you think about what instruments are like the most forward instruments in your track, the focal point instruments are going to be the ones that are going to create that call and response. So what you need to do is essentially just have two things that are kind of going back and forth, or at least to some extent doing that, right? Like obviously it can maybe be like back, forth, right? But like you know what I mean? Like it could do all kinds of like patterning, but the idea is to have this very clean distinction in focused instrument between one section and the next section. Not like total section, you know, by section I mean like it's a very small period of time, right? Like a beat or a quarter note or something like that, right? But that moment or longer period of time, it really depends on however slow or fast you want your music to be. That moment allows for the I guess like that call and response. So you just need to have it go back and forth. That's really all it is. So in the context of this song, right, the vocal, you could dry it up, make it really, really dry, maybe for like a word, right, or something, and put that on like a downbeat, okay? And then after that downbeat, then you could have the bass come in, or whatever other instruments you would like to have come in, right? Or you could do the opposite. I shouldn't say the opposite, but another like way to do that sort of is to have the end of each phrase have a really dry vocal with like a turnaround vibe, which in my opinion is actually my personal favorite. The way I use really dry vocals in the way that I'm thinking here is like I'll have like a turnaround vibe where I'll just have like really dry forward vocals at the end of like, you know, a 4-bar phrase, and then just that into the drop of or the next section of the drop or whatever feels just awesome. It's super fun. Anyway, so basically you essentially have to dry out the vocals and put them in the same space as the bass is currently sitting. As far as like the forwardness, the level, right? You want it to feel like as energetic or as important or as focal as like a focal point as the bass is. Or at least close to it, right? That's the goal. At least to create that call and response with specifically the vocal and the bass. Otherwise, you could just create a more, I guess, like felt call and response within the bass and maybe even the drums. And you could even do things like muting the vocals to create space, or even like not muting them, but side chaining them. That's another thing you can do. And by side chaining, I mean like side chaining the vocal from the bass, I guess, like, because you'd probably want the vocal to be more forward. Well, actually, this is the thing. So like you'd want it to be multi-band, right? So you would want the low end to be the bass in more favor than the, vocals. But then in the high end, you'd want the opposite, where you would want the vocals high end to be dynamically removing the bass's frequencies. At least that's what I would do, honestly. Like use some level of unmasking tool, dynamic EQ, sidechain, compression sidechaining, soothe sidechain. There's a lot of different ways to do this. You could also do ring mod sidechaining, which is free. Is there a good tool for that multi-band sidechaining? Yeah, I think that a good starting place, in my opinion, for anyone looking to understand this is ring mod sidechaining. It's like a great starting point for the idea of a transparent sidechain, right? Now, it's not going to have as much control as some of the other things that I just mentioned, but it works great. And I think that it's a good thing to like help you get started because it's free, right? There's a lot of good free ring mod devices or VSTs out there that have sidechain capabilities. So yeah, my opinion is that is what you should master, or at least experiment with first. And then after ring mod sidechaining, then you should be able to like, dive deep into maybe dynamic EQ and having sidechain with dynamic EQ using ProQ. Assuming you have ProQ, that's like the best way to do it. There are a couple of other plugins that do allow you to do that. I think TDR Nova is the one that a lot of people talk about, and I have used that a little bit, but it is not very intuitive. So I would recommend just getting ProQ. But anyway, these are just my thoughts. That's my opinion on that. The next question: is there anything strange happening in the bass that I might not be aware of, like phase cancellation or weird harmonics? Well, my good sir, I'm glad you asked. It actually sounded quite nice. The big thing that I would just be concerned about a little bit, just a little bit, are the low mids. The low mids are a little bit active, in my opinion. I think they could be toned back just a skosh to give you more of like a feeling of like clearedness, right? Like the clarity of the bass would feel like a little bit less, I don't know, like muddy. Yeah, like it'll feel a little bit less muddy. Because let me just show you. So I feel like the sub is fighting for the energy that it wants. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like the mid range is like it's good, but it's just like a little bit, just like like I don't know if it's better to either turn up the sub here or turn down the low mids a little bit, but one of the two, okay, is my opinion. But that is like literally about it as far as bass goes. I think that I don't notice any phase cancellation, at least with my setup here. I'm using headphones, okay, so I cannot feel the sub. I am just basing it. Now they are closed back, so I can at least like get an idea. But yeah, using headphones, I can't detect any phase cancellation, but obviously headphones are like the worst way to test that. One thing you can do if you're ever worried about phase cancellation is to look at a correlation meter. I don't know if you've ever heard of a correlation meter before, but there's a free one. I think it's like MSED. Yeah, so this is like a free one from Voxengo. And you can see here, if I play something, the correlation meter or correlometer, I don't know. Anyway, this thing, when it is positive, it means that it is not phase canceling at all. Like there's no phase canceling happening. But when it is negative, it means that there is a lot of phase canceling happening. So this is just a good way, if you just put this on something, if you see this in the negative there, right, that means that sound would not sound the way that it sounds right now in a mono setting. But that's kind of the vibe, right? Like it's. Plus, if you look at the frequencies, I'm not hitting any like bass notes or anything, right? So it's all fine. Because really, the sub is all that really matters. Let's be frank here. Anyway, said everybody. shout out Melda. Oh no, not Melda. Voxengo. There we go. Shout out the wrong company. Shout out Melda too. Fuck it. Melda's pretty cool. Anyway, I think that's about it. That was a really cool track, dude. I liked it. Yeah, you did a good job at smushing a little bit more smushed. But yeah, like just look out for wacky little bits of like mud, you know? I don't know how to describe it, but looking for frequencies that sound bad, I think is the best way to describe it. And then just getting rid of them. So like, in my opinion, yeah, there's maybe just like a little bit of extra low mids that you could get rid of, but again, I'm nitpicking that. It sounded really cool. So definitely glitchy. I hope that idea makes it even more glitchy. I look forward to hearing exponential rhythms in your track. Oh, something you can even look up just before we move on to the next track. Anyone out there who wants to learn about exponential rhythms, there's a wonderful video series by this guy named ASD. Okay. And if you look up like ASD exponential rhythm, I'm sure it'll pop up. And that is what I would recommend you watch because it's really, really cool. What is the frequency range that counts as low mids? Good question. I would say anywhere from like 120 to like 400, somewhere in there. But definitely more towards the 120 side usually. It's just sometimes I would consider 400 a low mid. It's just not in the context of, yeah, 200 to 600 is great. Yeah, that kind of range. Exactly. But definitely like 200 for sure. 100% is a low mid. I would say it goes down all the way to 120 because in my head, the way I think about it is like if most crossovers on most subs are 120, then I'm just going to categorize as everything 120 and below as sub, and then everything 120 up till, you know, wherever the low mids are going to be low mids. That's the way I look at it, just from like a logistics perspective, right? Like that's just where my mind goes. Anyway, thank you, William. Very cool. On to the next flock member. That was dope. Very atmospheric, which was fun. All right. You're welcome, William. All right, everybody. Time for everybody. All right. was really cool. That was pretty fun. I liked it. That was nice. So, during the switch up in the first drop, does the main bass need to be an octave higher to be the same frequency range as the other main basses? So, I just want to make sure I know what you're talking about. Is it this one? Is it this switch up, or is it this one? Okay, so it is this section. I didn't notice any problems with it. So no, I guess not. Huh. I guess the answer is maybe no. I kind of thought that it worked. Yeah. I mean, like, the big thing that I would look out for, if you're not EQing them separately, I would think about maybe doing a little bit of that. Okay. Just because, like, some of these, like, lower mid ones are definitely, they're all, like, really different from one another, right? So I would say, like, some of them are worth getting rid of some frequencies just to make them, like, feel more glued together. And then, of course, you can also do things like EQ them all and then kind of, like, recompress them back together in their new EQ'd form, which is kind of nice, just to kind of, like, glue compress them a little. But anyway, I don't know. There's a bunch of things you could do as far as removing a little bit of information, I think, especially in, like, so, like, here's a good example. Like, oh, maybe this is it. Okay, so it's this sound. You hear that? So that sound, sorry, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm trolling a little bit. All right, that sound, there's a little bit of low mids, right? Like, it's a pretty full sound. Like, if we look at the, and we just want to make it just a little bit more, hang on, let me pull up the shape. Give me a second. Uno momento, por favor. Let me just grab that. Almost there. Here we go. These are the two things we want. Okay. So this is kind of like the janky shape that we like to use around here, which in fact is essentially the true one. Let's be real. This one's the real one. But the idea here is you want to have this low mid, and I would say even mid range kind of reduction in value of your frequencies, because when there are instruments that do build up in this area, you are threatening this curve, which is a little bit less janky, but just as important. This is essentially the goal of the target curve of the decibel value of what you want your song to look like, because essentially it's like the human curve. Like, you essentially want it to, like, perfectly fit in the human ear, right? Like a snug little, you know, like you don't want the waves to be, like, beating on the eardrum too hard or too soft, right? So the idea here is, like, it's a little bit silly, but the idea here is, when you have the shape of your sounds kind of behaving in this way, where you're cutting out some of these low mids and lows, and even, like, mids a little bit too. When you cut out some of these, depending on the instrument, of course, you end up actually feeling like it feels clear, like it feels better. And it's because of this, right? Like, it's because we want this kind of, like, a shape to our song, to our things that we're listening to. Just because, like, yeah, we're more sensitive to certain frequencies than others. And the idea is, yeah, if you can get this kind of a frequency response on your song, then the song sounds really nice. So yeah, that's basically the idea. I don't know if if it could have been said that simple, but yeah. Nice. Awesome. Yeah, those are fun ones. Those pictures come up often. We have lots of pictures. Let's see. This one's pretty fun. Let me grab it. This one's pretty good. If you ever want to know where stuff's supposed to be, that one's kind of a cool one. This one is also really good. In case you guys have not seen this. All right. We're gonna tangent for a minute here, okay, class? I'm just kidding. All right. So this is the thing. All right. Oversampling. Why is oversampling important, right? Like, what is oversampling? Well, for any of you who don't know what oversampling is, and the reason why it's so great is if you look at this 1x, which is no oversampling, you can see here in between these major peaks, right? These are like the major peaks. There's this aliasing, right? In these valleys, you can see by these like jagged shapes, there's all this like aliasing, right? And aliasing is noise. It's like heard noise, like it's felt, it's experienced, okay? So that's no oversampling, okay? 2 times oversampling, look at this. Look at how much clearer it is already. The aliasing is already like just fucking great, right? All right, and I'll just like I won't even spoil it. Fine, I'll share it all. The 4x, okay, 4x is pretty good, but you can see here there's still these little fucking tiny peaks, right? But 8x, all right, 8x. Look at this. Look at how beautiful this is. Look at how beautiful this is. Right? And that is why oversampling matters, okay? That is why oversampling is important when it comes to things like limiting, clipping, EQing, compressing. Yeah. There you go. Little tangent there, but now you know. Yes. Absolutely. So my recommendation to all of you guys is if you have the ability to render at 8x oversample. Yeah. That's my recommendation. Anyway. So in my opinion, yeah, the bass was fine. I think that the fills don't get repetitive. I did enjoy them. They weren't bad. I do think some of the main timbres get a little overused. And I'm trying to think if it's not even the
everybody.
I think it's the clap, actually. I think it's the clap. The clap gets to me. It ends up feeling like a little bit too much by like the 3/4 point. But that's pretty nitpicky of me, okay? It's pretty nitpicky. All right. I'm nitpicking, but that's the whole point. All right. And yes, it's true, Dino. I'm all alone. Things are crazy in here. All right. Everyone's bouncing off the walls. It's insane. No, everyone's flexing. But anyway, so yeah, those are my opinions as far as repetitive, like the things I thought were repetitive goes. Like, I don't know. It's like there's everything else worked pretty well. I think that top layer, I don't know what it is. It's like that like horn/pan like shaker thing. I don't know what to I don't know how to describe it. It sounds like a horn. I can't believe that. It does sound like that. It sounds like a horn shaker pan thing. That thing, whatever that is, I think could be varied a little bit too. whatever that wacky instrument is that you have going there. Because I don't know what that is a very interesting sound. I categorized it as best I could. Okay, all right, bet. Yeah, I would say just vary that a little bit, right? Like get a little bit more timbral complexity out of it throughout the track, and I think you'll be fine. Like if you had maybe two, or if you want to get really awesome in like, I shouldn't say awesome because it's awesome regardless, but if you want to get like super if you're feeling creative and you want to just let the juices keep flowing, I would say you should do 4 separate timbres. So you would have like one in the first quarter, one in the second quarter, right, and then one in the third quarter, and then one in the fourth quarter. Like all of these should have different timbres in that specific instrument, right, in that frequency range. But yeah, anyway, definitely really cool vibe. Should you scrap the idea of the second drop and introduce a new main bass, possibly without the little fake outs, or any tips on strengthening it would be great. Yeah, definitely that other layer now, like now it has to be different, right? Like now that layer needs to be like, you know, maybe more aggressive, right? Like put it through some distortion and like beat it up a little bit, you know. I don't know. Like take that instrument and like make it different, right? Like make it more like energized, right? Like add more energy to it, make it more impactful, which means like usually maybe louder, maybe more saturation, more things that make it feel like more forward in the mix. So that could even mean things like stereo shaping, things like OTT, right? Multiband compression. All of that kind of stuff can help kind of bring out that instrument during that section in a different light, right? Like the idea is like we're trying to paint it in a different light so it feels different, even though we're not changing too much. Same with like the basses. You could distort the basses differently. You know, you could keep everything the same, just process it differently, and you'd be fine, in my opinion. Yeah, that's about it. Like that's all I could say. Like, cause I feel like the timbre is really, really, really similar. So that does make it feel less impactful. But to change the timbre, you don't need to like remake the whole instrument or like reinvent the wheel. You just, you know, put a distortion on it and change the settings, or maybe do something like put I don't know, like another. You could also add like another instrument with it, right? Like you could cut out some of the original and replace it with something else, and keep it more interesting that way, right? Like you don't have, but keep like maybe like 80% of it, right? And just change certain like moments to feel more unique and feel more fresh. Because you don't need to add like an insane amount, but it does need to be enough, right? So like that is where I feel you can go, right? That's the route that I would take if I was you. Like just a little bit, and that's it. Like a little bit more variation, and you're flexing. And yeah, I literally wouldn't change anything as far as like the arrangement. I would just process it differently. So yeah, that's my thought there. Yeah, really cool song. Really, really cool song. I like that. That was fun. I think that my favorite thing about this is your sub is very well defined. That's important. That's important. All right. Good stuff. All right. Hang on a second here. Let me grab the questions from Discord real fast here. Where are they? Let's see here. Okay, here we go. All right. So good luck, Babe Flip. Let's get it.
It's fine, it's cool. You can say that we ain't nothing, but you know the truth. And guess I'm the fool. With your arms out like an angel through the stars on you. I don't wanna call it love, but you don't wanna call it love. You only wanna be the one that I want, baby. Cause I'm the poison was with you. I'm not trying to stop the feeling. Yes, I'm trying to stop where you are. This pronounces so stupid reason to hold you. Stop the feeling.
Wow. So, Bear, it's called Mini Meters. Yeah, it's a great tool. Highly recommend it. So, yeah, that was not bad. Okay, I think it was fun. All right, I can feel the fun. I think you had fun making it, which is great. To answer your questions, how is the mixdown? The mixdown is not bad. I would say it is ever so slightly harsh, like just a little bit harsh. Like, it's not super bad. Like, it really didn't hurt like horribly. But I think that that's also true. Yeah, Dino's spitting facts with the forbidden questions. But I'm gonna be kind. I'm gonna be gentle. So yeah, that's my first thought, is that it was kind of harsh. It did not feel that great in the higher to like high mid frequencies, especially on some of these whinier, like, like when it's like fucking really it, and I'm like, but the timbre is great. So it's like, yeah, just maybe reduce some of those like frequencies of the harsher stuff a little bit, and you'll be good. As far as everything else, this felt kind of like a classic mix, which is not, I'm sorry, it's not a compliment, but it's not bad, right? It reminds me of like an era of dubstep, right? Like what's the vibe that it gives me? It gives me like 2015 dubstep sort of vibe, right? Like, which, Maui Hayes, I just realized you skipped my track. If I did, it was unintentional. So let me look into that. But yeah. I don't see your track before this. Yours is after Venus on my screen. So yeah, Discord's kind of freaking silly with that. Because I think this is your track, isn't it? Hang on, this is it. But it's after Venus. Isn't this Venus? Yeah. Yeah, okay. All right. Anyway, long story short. All right. Answer to question number 1. How's the mix down? It's okay. All right. It's okay. It's not the best, not the worst. I think that the kick's really loud. Let me turn this down a little bit. The whole time I was thinking like I really want to turn this down, but I didn't want to turn it down. And keep in mind I have this like turned down on my Windows like 30%. So this means that 70% it's still too loud for me, which is like that means it's pretty damn loud. So I would like maybe reduce the squishing a little bit, you know? Like that's just a thought. I think that a good place to sit is around -5, you know, -5 LUFS is a good place to sit. If you're really trying to be loud, you can go to -3 if you're really, really, really trying to. But as soon as you venture into that realm, you have to recognize the fact that like some people are going to find it to be harsh, right? So like, and even then, like maybe not, but you really got to like game it to sound good at -3 LUFS. Anyway, long story short, and by game it I mean like do lots of EQing and dynamic removal of unneeded information so that way you can get it to be like this super dry, super stereo-y, wide, full, super dynamic, yet just slammed. Like that's like the best way to go for like really, really loud stuff. But in the context of this song, resonate with social media algorithms. Yeah, you nailed that. Okay, you nailed that. You nailed the standard dubstep vibe. Okay, so what I said earlier, I guess maybe that means that you know this is kind of like a good thing, right? Okay, so if these are your goals, then I guess I'm glad that it wasn't offensive. Then okay, cool. So is the drop too long? Oh, by the way, wait before we move on. The mix, the last thing I wanted to say about the mix. One thing that you can try doing that I think would be beneficial is just softening the frequencies a little bit, right? Like on some of these instruments, like the kick, right? Like maybe make it a little bit less like hard hitting just so that like the big I'm trying to think of the feeling. Okay, so the feeling that I'm trying to help you understand is when the kick hits, it like shakes everything, but then the rest of the track comes back in and it's kind of like, I don't want to say quieter than the kick, but it's like, it definitely feels less hype, you know? Yeah, no, you're good, dude. I had this same issue when it comes to kicks and snares and even my subs being too loud. And even now I'm still questioning whether or not they're too loud or too quiet, but not really. I mean, there's so many different mixing styles, that's the thing, right? But when it comes down to it, yeah, this is a really good mix. It's just not quite there as far as like friendly to the ears. But yeah. Is the drop too long? No, I mean, let's see if I can get to play. Maybe not. Maybe we'll never know, you know? Well, given the time is only 2 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and say no, considering the buildup was about 30 seconds or like 35 or 40 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and say no. I didn't feel like it was too long. I just wanted to like see if there was like something about it that I wasn't super excited about, but I mean, it sounds fine. I think it sounded great. I liked the idea. The big thing that I will mention though, is that the, maybe we'll never know. Yeah, no. The big thing I want to mention is that the length of it would feel long if the vocals weren't there. Okay, so the vocals are definitely carrying it. But once again, you're nailing that classic old school dubstep energy, which, again, like, as an artist and as a consumer of music, I personally would not be interested in, okay? But I get what you're doing, right? And I think that it's totally fine. And even though it wouldn't appeal to me personally, I think that it would appeal to someone who's really into that sort of style of music. So you're nailing it is what I'm saying. The drop wasn't too long. Like as far as spice, a big thing that I think helps is just lots of high frequency washing of sorts, whether it's with noise sweeps or cymbals or anything like that. I find that in like those sort of more reverberant friendly zones, you can get away with a lot more of that. Yeah, I think that it's great. Like it sounds great. I think that you definitely nail, like the fact that you got me thinking this feels like an old 2015 dubstep track means you're winning that game, you know? So that's good. So good stuff, dude. But yeah, thank you, Venus. I think that covers your questions. That was a fun track. That was cool. Yeah, man, sweeps are great. Cymbals are great. Reverse stuff's great. Anything that's like, you know, pushing and pulling the track along, I guess, is a good way to look at it. But anyway. All right, next up we got Reborn. Reborn. Preview. Oh. Preview.
And we all have this feeling that I came into this world. Now, it isn't true. You came out of this world. Like a leaf comes out of a tree.
That was very cool. That was fun. I liked it. I guess I'll just jump into the questions. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to say about it. I kind of like the sound design. I think the sound design was nice there. But yeah, could the drop sound design improve though in terms of loudness or grittiness? I think that yes is the short answer, but not in the way that you might think. I feel like the grittiness and loudness is kind of there. It's just that it needs to be, I don't want to say slammed a little bit harder, but I think you could get away with a little bit more compression, or at the very least, like limiting, or maybe even like, I don't know, like even a distortion can work like as a form of compression. But yeah, the idea is like compression, right? A little bit more. Because we're hitting like what are we hitting here? Let's see. And we can see this again. This is one of those things where obviously it was felt. I felt it, but I'm just showing you. You can visually kind of look at this. On SoundCloud, we can look at the track here, and when the drop is hitting, like it's pretty squished, right? But it is not that squished. Let's compare it to maybe this track, right? The Bear Tracks track. Here we go. So you can see how like squished this is. Whereas, and this track especially, Poyos is crazy. But you can see the difference here. Okay, I guess, you can see how like Poyos is squished AF, and I feel like that benefits the style of music, okay? So again, back to what I was telling, who was it that I had this conversation with before? I think it was either Glacknick or William. I think it was Glacknick, though. Clip to zero, okay? Clip to zero is the way to go. It's the way to go. Like, there's a lot that I love about this song, but it would be better if it was like just slapping.
Like a leaf comes out of a tree.
Like that drop, like it's cool. It's super cool. But if it was clipped to 0, I think it would be even cooler. Because it's hitting a pretty good luff level, but it's missing a little bit. You know? But I think the timbre is great. I think that, like, imagine that drop with OTT. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Imagine this drop with 8 OTTs on the master. Yes. Yes. 8 OTTs on the master. Yes, of course. We need feed bingo cards. Oh, yeah, dude. Clip to 0, sidechain, mono sub. Oh, we should start that. Write a list, Dino. All right. At some point, you should definitely. I'll help write a list. I'm gonna actually. I might even just write that down somewhere so we don't forget. All right. Yeah. Mid-side EQ. Exactly. Yeah. So that's my opinion as far as the mix is concerned, or master is concerned, surrounding the drop and sound design, right? Because the timbre is fine. It's just that the timbre is fine. It's just that we can see it here, right? Like this compression, it feels good. Okay, so if you want it to feel more modern, no, don't give 8 OTTs a try. What you should do is learn clip to 0 by Baphometrics, or at the very least start clipping more often on your instruments and learning how that can help you control dynamic range in a somewhat transparent way, right? Like obviously you can't be like totally transparent with it, but at the very least you can be doing it in the most transparent yet aggressive way, right? Like, as it's a very aggressive form of dynamic control as well. Anyway, does the LFO sound too basic? Could it use more variation? Let's see here. See, I feel like what I want. Okay. Variations is the key, and maybe this is going back. We're gonna go backwards. Okay, we're gonna go to question 1 again, because I'm gonna include question 1 into this, because I'm feeling that the call and response could be a little bit more spicy, right? Like you could have a 2 or 3 hit triplet LFO bass hit, and then have, I don't know, the rest of the bar or whatever have a quarter note like LFO hit that's a different timbre, right? That kind of stuff, right? The back and forth, the kind of like checkerboarding of the sounds, because I feel like and it's just for like the call response, right? So like maybe for like, it's kind of like just for what I'm mainly thinking calls as well, like really, really short, like 1 or 2 hits of these LFO'd sounds. But instead of them hitting at the same time and being the same timbre, they could hit at slightly different times and maybe be slightly different timbres. But yeah. Does the LFO sound too basic? Could it use more variations? Yeah, so like
It comes out of a tree.
I don't know if that's really variation. I think the sub is working into the mid bass, I think. Oh, I see what you're saying. It's not. Good call. Good call, Enki. Good call. Thank goodness. Thank goodness for Enki, dude. We'd be screwed without him. Yeah, no, I agree with Enki there. I do think that the high-end frequency shifter thing that you're doing does feel a little weird with the sub not moving. because the sub is just sitting there at whatever note that is. I think it's an F note. I don't know exactly. But the frequency shifter is moving, right? So you have that, right? But the sub is not doing that. The sub is just like stationary. So it does it like I didn't notice it because I wasn't really focusing on the relationship between those two things. I was like too distracted by just the ring mod part of it. But yeah, no, Enki's spot on. So yeah, just watch out for that. Maybe vibrato the sub as well. You could also experiment with less legato notes, maybe. Because the reality is, like, the reason why it's so obvious is because you have this very long note that you're just dragging out with the LFOs, which is fine. But the effect of that is that it's obvious when there are these issues. Like, these issues become more obvious when the sub is existing for such a long period of time, and that movement is existing for such a long period of time. It's like, oh wait, the sub isn't doing the same thing as that movement. So yeah, I don't know. It's like just something to be conscious of. That's kind of why I think a lot of the times I appreciate I don't want to say glitchier music, but I think the reason why I tend to gravitate towards making more of that kind of stuff is I like that aspect about it. You know, you're constantly almost forced into making the sub work with the mid bass. So it's a nice little, I guess, unfortunate truth, right? Because it just takes forever. But anyway, no, this was sick. This was cool. As far as the mix, I feel like it was pretty good. I liked the. Okay, so I liked the levels of everything in comparison to everything else, but as soon as the bass comes in, you lose the drums a lot. So there's a part of me that thinks that you're not sidechaining your kick and snare, or if you are sidechaining it, you're not sidechaining it as much as you might want to. Definitely would recommend at least sidechaining more of this clap snare thing.
Like a leaf comes out of a tree.
Yeah, and I would say the kick too, honestly. The kick as well. They both feel a little bit weak as far as sidechaining goes. They don't sound bad though. It's just they're not as like, I'm expecting it to really like create that groove, right? Like the groove is almost like being created by the side, not like by just the sidechain, but like the way the sidechain and the drums are interacting with everything else, right? So in the context of this song, I feel like the drums aren't felt enough, which means that the sidechain is probably not as deep or as positioned as it could be, right? Maybe this is one of those things where I don't know if you're sidechaining or not still, but if you're not, I definitely would try sidechaining more or learning how to sidechain. And if it is sidechain, then I would suggest sidechaining more. So, yeah. Hopefully that helps. As far as your mix goes, I think that was like the only big thing I was like super concerned about. I mean, the master, it could be louder as we were talking about, right? Clip to 0. But as far as the mix, right? Specifically the mix, I thought the mix was not bad. Okay. So yeah. I'm trying to think of some other suggestions that might improve it.
And we all went out of a tree.
So the hi-hats do feel a little bit forward during this section. But they sound good in the drop. So maybe just turn the hi-hats down over here. Also, a lot of low mids, which is kind of dangerous sometimes. Especially when you have these kinds of respaces. So, like, the one thing about respaces that you do have to look out for, in my opinion, is the fact that if you're not using a respace with a fundamental that is sturdy, you will have to be concerned about mud. Okay, so like, and even if you do have one that's sturdy, it's still going to be a little bit muddy, but less muddy. But the point is that respaces can be muddy, so you have to be careful with how much low mids are going to be in the mix when you're letting it exist there, right? And I think this is a good example of when it feels a little bit muddy.
And we all have.
And I think the reason why is you have these, I guess they're like 200 hertz-ish range, like peaks. I would say it's like right in there where you're getting that feeling, where you have this like these peaks that pop up every once in a while from the respace that are in that 200 hertz area, and it just ends up feeling like muddy, you know, kind of like this honky, muddy feeling. So yeah, Anki's spitting there. It's not easy, but it's also not that hard. I think that the biggest thing you want to do, in my opinion, is first get a fundamental that is sturdy. So in this respace, we can see that there is no sturdy fundamental because the fundamental shifts all over the place. Here, let's watch again.
And we all have this feeling. And we all have this.
So you can see how the low end there, I was just letting that one area play out. The low end there was like kind of like phasing in and out, right? And that's just normal. That's normal on a respace. That is not abnormal at all. But because of that, it ends up feeling less sturdy than if you set it up to where the reesiness is only happening after the fundamental. So essentially you remove the fundamental from both of the Reese frequency wave shapes inside of, you know, serum, vital, you know, phase plant, current, whatever your VST of choice is for making these sounds. Yeah, you lower that first harmonic and then you add a third oscillator that is a dedicated sub. So you have the dedicated sub oscillator built into the patch with these other two oscillators that are creating the respace that we know and love. And what ends up happening is you get the and this is the thing, right? This is just an artistic opinion, and it's also something related to something almost like even genre specific, right? I feel like in heavier, like more main stage music, the dedicated sub goes a long way, just because what ends up happening is your sound is more sturdy, which means it's not as dynamic. Okay. So like you lose dynamics, but what you gain is presence, right? Like you gain existence, you gain like it being there, which is, I think, in my opinion, better in a loud music situation, right? I think that being able to hear everything really clearly and just like know that it exists in that song is like super important. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Yeah, the mix was good. Which is great. I don't know how long you've been making music, but yeah, keep making music. It's cool. Definitely look forward to seeing more of these tracks. I feel like the one thing that isn't, you're not asking a question, but I'm just going to throw it out there. This build up could be a little bit better. Just like a little bit less.
Like a leaf comes out of a tree.
You know? Like it's so dope. Like all of this is quite cool, but I feel like the build up kind of makes it feel more gimmicky. Okay? But it's easy fix, okay? The reality is like it's just because of the drum structure. Honestly, I would just suggest not using drums for build-ups more often and just experimenting with okay, I should say not just drums for build-ups. Okay, obviously you can use drums if you want, but I would say experimenting with the other instruments surrounding the drums can help you. So things like reverse white noise sweeps and reverse reverbs and reverse cymbals and risers and pitching up of all of your synth instruments and all that kind of stuff, like reducing the frequency content of your song, band passing it a little bit, lowering the width, lowering the volume. All of these things can help the tension build. And more, I'm just listing as many as I can come up with. There's lots of ways to build tension, but yeah, I think that's the one thing. All right. That's where I'm going to get nitpicky there. I think that the build up could be a little bit spicier, but anyway, I don't want to leave on a sour note though. This was a cool song. It was really cool. I like the sound design. Keep flexing, bro. Yeah. If you want to do a short build up, don't even start the idea of what this is trying to be. All right. What you want to do is you want to just drop right into it. Maybe have like a little moment of silence, moment of tension building before the silence. And then just drop into it. If you do too much leading up into a drop, if you're trying to achieve that feeling, you are not going to achieve it. Which is what I'm trying to say. So a lot of that feeling of quickly dropping into a drop comes from basically psychoacoustically reducing energy, maybe removing certain frequencies from certain instruments, or maybe raising the pitch of everything so there's less low frequencies, right? Like there's a bunch of different ways where you can lower or raise tension. But the idea is, yeah. I'm just going to say that you have a really good idea here, and that the tension building that you chose was not exactly what I would have chosen. But I don't really know if I have the direct answer for you if you want to make it short, because I actually think you have such a long intro that you really should go for it, Like if you're going this deep, you may as well go like 4 or 5 minutes, I know this is just a preview though, but you know what I mean? Like I would say make that build up, but make it like a real build up, make it like I don't know, reference, pick your big artist that makes cool build ups or something like Virtual Riot, right? Virtual Riot build ups, right? There you go. Reference that, or reference anything that has build ups that you like. All of that kind of stuff. So yeah, that is the one thing that I think could have been improved. But anyway, cool track, dude. Fire. No sphere buildups. Yeah. Let's see. Wait, just tend to skip some of the. Oh. Sorry, I was just reading what you were saying here, Enki. Yeah, I feel like, I'm sorry, I was just kind of thinking about this. I'm wondering why that is. Is it because we're making such good music that people want to hear the drop sooner because they can't wait for it because it's better? Or I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think, like, is it because of that, like, lack of, what is it that what's the word I'm looking for here? It's like the lack of, patience, right? We're all just a little less patient these days. That's why all these songs are going to be, like, having to drop instantly. But anyway. Breaking Me 2. Well, Poyo, welcome back. It's good to see you.
Call me what you want, I'll be what you want. I've been here 1,000 times. Falling for another, I don't even bother. I can do it all my life. Tell me if you wanna, 'cause I got this feeling. I wanna hear you say it, 'cause I can't believe it. With every touch of you, it's like I started dreaming. 'Cause heaven's not that far away. And I'll be singing la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. I'm just right here dancing around to the rhythm. Take 'em back and play, play in my heart. You know that I can't get right. So get back from the start. You take with my heart. I'll be singing la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. You're breaking me. You can do whatever. I'll be here forever, spinning round inside this room. Hey, hey, won't you come on over? I'm a sucker for you, wishing we'll be out there soon. Tell me if you wanna, 'cause I got this feeling. I wanna hear you say it, 'cause I can't believe it. With every touch of you, it's like I started dreaming. 'Cause heaven's not that far away. And I'll be singing la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. I'm just right here dancing around to the rhythm. Take 'em back and play in my heart. You know that I can't get right. So get back from the start. You take with my heart. I'll be singing la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. You're breaking me la 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 la. You're breaking me.
Wow, Poyo, that was great. I like that. That was fun. Sound design was cool. It was all like really nostalgic as far as like the style, you know. Like it definitely has like a I'm wondering like what era does this is again like reaching back into what, like 2015, maybe even 2014 or 13 even. Dubstep, you know, like what is it, Subdocta and you know, all that kind of vibe is basically where it sounds like we're venturing, which is great. It sounds fucking awesome. Is this a good start? Yeah, dude, I think this was a good start. I know that you haven't done as much variation, but I think that like you already kind of have the theme established. So like the hard work is more or less done. Now I shouldn't say that. The easiest part is now done. Now you just have to do the hard part of expanding it into like a full song. No, I'm kidding. No, I think that you have a good idea here and you should definitely keep expanding upon it. Do the vocals sit in their own space or clash with anything? I feel like you might know the answer to this, and there was some hints at it in the chat for sure, and I agree with them. The vocals felt like they were getting squished by the bass a little bit, suffocated even by the bass a little bit. we'll use the word suffocated here. Yeah, you like, and that's like how I would describe it. Whenever there's vocals in a track, and this is something that really sucks, honestly. I don't know why this is the way our brains work. Well, okay, it doesn't really suck. It's fine. But it's just like something I've noticed. Whenever there's vocals in a track, the brain naturally wants to be able to understand it so that it can experience what it is that the other person is like telling them, right? Now, this isn't always the case. Like, that's why a lot of the times when we're listening to, I don't know, even like tribal chanting that we don't fully understand or other forms of music, we can still vibe with that because it doesn't default to that. But it's kind of this weird thing, right? You can either go one way or the other, 100% or not 100% of the way. So, meaning with the vocals, if there's something that you're meant to understand or you are wanting people to understand, which is most of the time, I would say, unless you're specifically trying to make like metal, certain types of like screamo and metal and things like that, or other genres that are not consistent with the style of, you know, Subdocta, you know, the people that I'm thinking of, that you are very similar. I shouldn't say similar to. You're close to. It's like you're different enough, but it kind of reminds me of that. You know what I mean? But anyway, long story short, they are in fact fighting, and I think the way to fix this is to just create more space for the vocals. I think that if you make the vocals more clear and make it so that people can understand them more easily, that they will feel more naturally kind of existent in the song. So a good way to like test it is maybe turn it down and listen to it and see if you can hear the vocals clearly, even with everything else that's happening. And if you can't, then you should keep making room for the vocals. Whether you want to use an EQ and just hard cut room, or to use dynamic EQ with sidechain, like in the form of Soothe, or, you know, something like that, that's up to you, right? Like there's unmasking plugins out there. There's all kinds of ways to do that removal of the frequencies from the bass to make the vocal fit. But yeah, that's what I would recommend you do, a little bit more. And if you're not doing it at all, then maybe that's all it needs. Can't really tell my system, but utilizing stereo could help it a lot. Mid-side OTT, if you add it to the vocal. Yeah, that is a good point. Putting it in its own kind of stereo spot is helpful. But in my opinion, and again, these are all opinions, but in the context of this song, a vocal like this, because it's a lead vocal, I would suggest making it more mid than side if you are going to add some level of stereo information to it. I would recommend trying to keep it more centered than anything else. Boosting dB, boosting LUFS. You'll add more OTT. Here we are again. It's like you wake up in the morning and there's just OTT, like a picture of OTT, and there's like you turn around and there's OTT, and then you like look in the mirror and there's like an OTT as you look up from like brushing your teeth. And then like, you know, you go and get into the shower and you start washing your hair and you got your eyes closed and you know you're all relaxed and you go to open your eyes and there's no TT right in front of you. That's what this meme is going to become. That's what it's going to become. All right. No, I thought this was cool. I thought it was fun. I think you killed it. I think that the mix was great. I really like the way that you kind of are approaching this. I don't know. It's like an older genre. Like it's a style that's been around for a while, but I can feel the modernization. I can feel the timbral originality, you know, like I can feel that this is its own thing. But I like that it's as good, if not better, than some of that styled stuff from back in the day. So, fuck yeah, bro. Keep making music. Breaking me. I don't know how we're breaking you, though. That's must old drum and bass is very washed out. I mean, yeah, but it's fun, you know? It's nostalgic. Gets the old nostalgia gears grinding, you know? Gets the fucking smoke going and the rust out of the old gears. No, the sound has no pops. The mixes feel soft. Yeah. Which yours did not, which is good. You know, you had that little, that's what I was saying. Like you kind of, I mean, it's soft, but you know what I mean? In a very tasteful way. It's got enough energy to where it feels good. You know, like it feels like, okay, this is still dance music, you know? Anyway. All right. I guess, we are on to the next one, which was supposed to be me, but I'm all alone here. So I don't know. It feels kind of awkward doing my own track when I'm all alone. Should chat roast me? It's up to you guys. That's the real question. And fuck it. I'll even wait to hear the response. How am I going to feef my own track I'll Cook the Fuck Out of You. Okay, all right, word. Perfect. Dino, this is great because this is a previous track, okay? So it needs cooking. And it needs like more cooking, okay? Good old water. All right, here we go.
Anybody that has it in their neighborhood's gonna be totally driven crazy. It's driving me nuts. Anybody that has it in their neighborhood's gonna be totally driven crazy. It's driving you nuts. It's driving me nuts.
That's my song. That's my song, you guys. All right. Feel free to answer any of these questions. Drop at 140, too busy. Try cutting ARPs. Word. Okay. That's good to know. Let's see, where is that? That's like right here. Just want to see where. You think during this section? Oh shit! I scrolled up. No, I was trying to find the spot. Oh, you can't read them. Maybe because they're too small too. That also might help. But no, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're distracted emoting party symbols. I mean, hey, that's okay. All right. If you guys had a good time while listening to it, then that's what matters. Okay. Wob fill in the beginning seems a little late. Oh, is it this one? This one here?
Driven crazy.
Is it this one? Is it like this this wob or
You're totally driven crazy.
whatever is ending the bar in the first drop? right, does that mean we need to run it back then? I mean, I'll run it back. I'm really trying to find some. I mean, like, I don't understand what you mean by that last thing, Dino. But
It's driving me nuts.
is it like that section of the first drop? Because that's technically the first like half, right? I guess maybe not. I don't know how to look at this because it's kind of so like you said first drop, so this is kind of like all just one one unit. You know what I'm saying? So there's not a whole lot of breaks in here. I'll stamp it for you if you send it to me. Okay. Yeah, I will. I will send it to you. Thank you. Let's see. Looking for Dino. Found him. The sound design is nutso. Nice. Yeah, what about like the mix wise? Well, I guess you're on a phone. That's what's so rough. I guess Enki was saying he's in his car. How is the mix in the car, Enki? Like mix, just focus on the mix. I don't really care as much about. I mean, like if you want to answer the other questions, that's fine too. But oh, nice, thank you. Yeah, you know who I referenced for this track? You'll never guess who I referenced, and I'm trying to get better, but we'll obviously keep doing that. But I referenced Mewy, aka Lucid Slip. That is who I referenced for this song. I've been really kind of trying to understand his thought process as far as mixing and mastering goes, and I think I'm finally getting it, at least a little bit. I mean, obviously I'm not where he is yet, but yeah, it's pretty cool. He has like really, really good mixes. Nice. See, that's what I've been realizing. What track? Poppin' by Mewy is the one that I referenced. This one right here. Oh, Popped. Sorry, not Poppin'. Popped. This one. I just realized I'm so sorry. That is probably really loud. Anyway, that was my reference. Yeah. I just wanted to reference his mix on some of his stuff because his mixes are quite interesting. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to like hog any more time. Thank you guys for your thoughts. I appreciate it. Dino, just DM me your thoughts, I guess. Yeah, definitely looking forward to making more of this kind of stuff. Yeah, I've been kind of on a hiatus as far as making like an actual song. Well, I shouldn't say that because obviously this is an actual song, but it's funny. Like as soon as I get an idea that's this long, I like hyper fixate on trying to mix and master it. And I feel like I could be making longer tracks, but maybe they don't need to be longer. Maybe they're fine. Maybe they're fine being 2 minutes and 44 seconds long. All right. Next up, we got the finale. I just realized this is the finale. We made it to the end, everybody. We're about to be let loose into a sea of calming mountains. Because mountains are totally sea-like, obviously. Okay. I'm just going to Discord to grab the questions. Here we go. Let me pull these up here. All right. Just wanted to make sure we were all set up here. Okay, here we go. Saxy Future Garage. Okay, this is exciting. That means there might be drums in here. Oh, goodness. Wow. That was great. What a journey. What a fun one. It was very peaceful. Tranquil even. Well, all right. Let's look at these questions here. Feel like this needs more energy or detail, especially in the beginning. What element should I add, or should I give it some movement? I mean, I personally didn't have any real issues with it, but I know what you're saying. I don't know. It's like, who are you doing this for? Like, and if you do feel like it really does need that more energy, increase in energy rather, you could just do something as simple as first trying to automate things around surrounding like the instruments kind of like space in the mix, right? So like whether it's frequencies being removed and added over time, or reverb being on and then slowly reduced, or something like that, right? Like doing those kinds of things first, you can experiment that route and then add more things if you feel you need it. But I kind of, for a while now, have been on the mindset of minimalism as far as like how many instruments I'm trying to add to a track. So that's kind of why I think that way, right? So the way I would go about it is by doing that, but that doesn't mean you necessarily need to. It's just something that might help. But yeah, I think that other things that might help with as far as energy goes, you can always bring in some percussion earlier, right? Like maybe if it's muffled or lo-fied, or like, which I think would work great with this kind of style, something like that. Yeah, like bringing stuff like that in earlier can be helpful. But again, not just like full volume or anything like that, like totally subdued, really far back in the mix, just they exist, but they aren't like, really that felt. Or as felt as they are during the drop, or whatever you want to call the main section of this song. Yeah, those are my suggestions. Yeah, EQ stuff out, man. Automate, reverb, reverb send, even reverse reverb, reversed sounds, sweeps, risers. What else? Yeah, washed perk effects in the beginning. Perfect. That is the type of shit that you need, honestly. It's great. I like starting songs off that way, so it's funny. Yeah. There's a lot of ways I think you could I guess add energy, but it's like it's hard, right? Like I'm trying to give you some ideas that are just coming to mind. But I think that the easiest ones that I know always work are the manipulation of the sound itself, right? Which I think is worth experimenting with. I would say it could be fun to do that in a track like this too, because it's so like atmospheric that you could kind of like bring people into this space, right? You know, so like you could start off with the space being not so obvious and then bring people into it by, you know, allowing for more frequencies, allowing for maybe more of the dryness of the space to be felt, right? Because like if you have it reverbed out and you're slowly bringing the instrument in, it's like whatever it is getting closer to you, right? It's becoming more defined. So like things like that, right? Like things that increase tension, but they do not change the arrangement, right? Adding an effect is technically, I guess, arrangement, depending on how you're looking at it. But I would say that it's also technically mixing. So that's why I don't consider like the automation of the reverb, for example. I wouldn't consider that arrangement, but it kind of is. But anyway, yeah. You were hoping for a section that kind of changed the flow, like an extremely slow guitar melody with notes spaced out from guitar bars. Yeah, that is true. A little bit of like change up to the vibe could be nice, but that kind of goes against the style. I don't know, Enki. I think I talked to you about Slow Adi the last time we did Feef. But I'm gonna say it again. Yeah, Slow Adi is just totally up this vibe. And I actually know that he doesn't do a whole lot of variation. But he does do a good job at creating moments of space, from the drums specifically. So yeah. And it doesn't, yeah, like you just said, it could be really short. Yeah. It doesn't need to be long or anything like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you checked him. I bet. But anyway, that is my thought for the first question. Should you add vocals into this or maybe just vocal one shots? I feel like this is one of those things again where me personally, absolutely. Yes, I think vocals would sound awesome. Like some lead singing, just, you know, choruses, like just classic, like full on singing, right? Like I feel like this could be a full song, with, you know, I guess the stereotypical length of vocal lyrics, right? Maybe some hums. Interesting. See, I feel like if you're going to go the vocal route, you have to have like the most pure, clean, crispy, well-sung voice. Okay, it doesn't need to be that crazy good, but you know what I mean? As good as close to that as you can get. And like I feel like that's what you want, and that to be like really clear. Otherwise, I would say just go for a different instrument, right? Like maybe you could add other instruments and use them in place of the voice, right? A good example of an instrument that I find takes up that role very well are strings or violins, or even things like piano, right? Like anything that can be played with a more human feel, right? Like, because the reason why I think the voice sounds so good and the reason why vocals slap in that kind of spot is because of the fact that they're human. They're very like felt and they're very natural. So I just feel like any instrument that's being played would work. But yeah. Should I leave what's there instrumental and then continue the song with a vocal like some Hans Ford type shit? I mean, you can do whatever you want. That sounds like a cool idea. Cause yeah, I mean like that, this is one of those things where context would help, right? So like the context of everything surrounding the song would be good. It'd be good to like hint at all of that kind of stuff if you're going to be doing that. Heck, you might even be inclined to put visuals with the song at that point, to really kind of seal the deal as far as the complete piece of art making sense to everyone, or as many people as possible, I should say. But yeah, no, I think adding vocals would be a great idea, but I also think adding any vocal replacement would also be an equally good idea. Would you add in lyrics and refrain, or would it be more like chorus hums? Yeah, like I'm saying lyrics and a refrain. Sorry, I just saw your comment there, Duncan. I'm saying lyrics and a refrain. For me, right? That would be my opinion. That's what I would want to hear out of this song. But yeah. Right, and Duncan's spitting facts here. Sorry, I was reading his newest comment here. He's spitting facts. That would also be a contender for switching up the energy and kind of continuing or building up the story of the song. So yeah, like it's a good way to just create a level of progression, right? So like the vocals can be the progression of the song. Maybe they don't need to be there in the first section, and then in the second section they're there. And maybe you hint at them in a way that feels good. Something that I would recommend doing is maybe creating like atmospheric or choppy feeling stuff, like stuff that isn't obviously the vocal being sung, but kind of hints at least the timbre of it, right? Like hinting at the timbre of the vocal, I think is a good idea. Even if you're not going to hint at like the actual vocal words being sung themselves. I think that timbrely hinting at that stuff can be nice, because it's kind of like priming the brain, right? You're like trying to like not catch people off guard too much, and a vocal is a huge thing to just throw in there halfway into the song. I shouldn't say just throw in there, but you know what I mean. Like for that to just pop out halfway into the song, you'd want to like really lead people into that moment. So just be conscious of that. But you could do it for sure. Just be conscious of the fact that you got to lead people up into that moment, and then, yeah, then it'll feel fine. Yeah, Enki's got it. You're flexing, bro. Yeah. Anyway, on to the last question here. Are the drums too harsh? Specifically the snare thingy. So it's funny. The snare is actually kind of fine. I thought the snare is fine. Honestly, the snare thingy that you're talking about. I think I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think the kick is a little bit too aggressive. I think that the kick was the one drum for me that just felt like it was like I don't know, it just feels like the wrong kind of aggression, wrong kind of like, not aggression, but you know what I mean? The wrong level of like energy. I guess it's like super high energy, but it shouldn't be, you know? Maybe that's what it is. It feels like there's too much energy, and I think that's why. Yeah, that's basically like my only opinion as far as drums go. Everything else sounds great. I love the space. I mean, it's just too loud. I think it's just mainly the volume. Also, I don't know if you have all your drums going into one bus, but I would saturate them together or glue compress them together or both just to make them feel a little bit more connected. Because I feel like the big thing is this kick that's happening is also not really like shaking the rest of the track the way it kind of should be. It's not like existing, you know, it's not like making its presence known in the aggressive way that it feels like it should. And I think some of that is just because of the way you are processing your drum bus, but also maybe sidechain as well, things like that. And that's the thing, like, I think it does do a good job at existing, right? Like, it's here. And maybe it's only in... Maybe it's really only in this first half as well. So maybe it's just a volume issue. Because I feel like by here... You know what I mean? Like, it sounds fine. I feel like it sounds much better in this second half as far as the kick is concerned. So I guess it was just in this first half. But I had made a mental note of that. But no, I think that this is a cool song. You should definitely keep going. Yeah, no, I think it's a cool kick. It's a great kick. It sounds like a fun kick that might actually work in this song. It's just, like I was saying, it just feels like it's poking out too much. Like, comparatively to everything else, which is kind of creating a very, like, luscious space, I feel like this is, like, too jabby for what it is that you're trying to do. So, like, either you make it this type of a kick and make it super, super punchy to where it actually, like, cuts through everything, which I don't think would be the best option here. Or you kind of reduce the kick in energy a little bit. It's kind of like in this middle ground right now where it doesn't know whether it wants to be in the front or the back. And I feel like in the context of this style and vibe and just the overall calmness, I would recommend going further back in the mix, like making it a little bit more quiet, just because then you'll have, in my opinion, a nice calming journey. I think it would benefit that sort of energy. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I think I forgot to answer a question from Poyo earlier because I had wrote something, and I think he was the track that asked this question. Did I close it? Yeah, because I don't know if I answered this question or not, but I'm going to answer it again anyway, even if I didn't. But I'm going to go there just because it was a fascinating question, and I looked it up just because I didn't really know the exact answer. I just knew that there were a lot of them that were mono. But I wanted to go over this question. More bass drummy sounding kick layer. Yeah, exactly. But no, this question is interesting. Why do venues have mono systems? So I looked up this question, and the answer is seemingly because if you have a stereo system, it is harder to have a consistent sound around the listening environment. So, for example, the people in the center will have like the perfect experience, I guess, right? But then all the people off to the side will have like this fucking weird, distorted perception of the mix. So that's the biggest reason why apparently venues have mono systems. And it is definitely something you should focus on and keep in mind while producing. Yeah, I didn't want to forget about this, Poyo. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, but it's important. I think that's, if you're not conscious of the fact that your track's stereo information is not really that important, then you should be more conscious of it. I mean, it is obviously very important for most people who are listening in what I would consider a personal environment, right? So like, I don't know, in their car, on headphones, all those kinds of things. speaker system, maybe on their TV or whatever. TVs are a little bit stereo, or at least people have stereo systems for their TV sometimes. That kind of stuff, right? Like, so that's gonna be like where the stereo information is felt, okay, which is important, okay? I would say it is important to have that information for those instances, okay? But then there's also this whole other side of the music that's live music, really loud, maybe not even live per se, just like, someone blasting it out of like their own system or a jukebox or whatever, right? Like, or a car speaker system. And what happens is, even if it is stereo, in the air, it is summing to mono, okay? So in the air, right, when the waves are going through the air, they sum to mono over time, right? So like maybe it will sound fine in certain areas, right? But in other areas, I can guarantee you it will not sound fine. And that's kind of the big issue with like any stereo system that's a one speaker, is if it has non-mono compatible stereo sounds in it, then it will sound weird. It will sound off-putting. It won't sound the way that the artist had intended it to sound, right? So my recommendation to anyone out there who makes music, which is all you guys, I would say you should check yourself, right? Like, just mono your track every once in a while. Just be conscious of what frequencies are where in your stereo field. I've gotten to a point recently where I'm so conscious about where all my frequencies are that, I'm rarely finding low frequencies in my sides that are like overpowering, right? Like things like that, right? Like I don't think I've had that instance happen in a very long time, because I'm conscious of the fact that like I know that this sub needs to be sturdy and I don't want it to phase. So if there's stereo information in my sub and it's not phase coherent, then there's a huge problem, because my sub is going to just disappear. So stuff like that, right? Like where it's like, that it's like a good practice to make sure that your sub is mono compatible. Yeah. And that's the thing. So Enki, this is the thing about that style of music. I don't think that style of music is for live mixing. I said it, okay? Now you can hate me or not hate me after I said that. Just know that I said it in good conscience and I wasn't trying to offend anyone. But I do think that, unfortunately, Future Garage is like super chill. Like, I don't know. I have never gone out to a show specifically to see Future Garage. I usually go out to shows to see like more hype stuff, right? But Future Garage, I love listening to when I'm just like chilling or alone in my car, or like just, I need to think, or, all that kind of stuff. It's great. It's great for that. So, yeah. Thank you for answering. I was curious because rhythm venues be slapping hard AF, and it sounds good. Yeah, dude. Well, rhythm is like taking advantage of this ideology that I think is very interesting. And the ideology is simple, loud, and like really clean, right? Like, there's really not a lot going on with rhythm, but I think that's its flex, because you can like really push it. The thing about pushing loudness, right, is when you start to push loudness, you start realizing that the more complex your song is, the more difficult it's going to be to get all of these puzzle pieces to fit into the right slots, so that when you go to press down on this track and squish it, it actually ends up still being like a puzzle at the end. Like the problem is like, I mean, I think that was a good enough analogy, actually. I think we'll call it there. But yeah, it's an interesting ideology. But yeah, 4 songs stacked on top of each other. Well, that's the idea. So like it's all clipped so hard that it just doesn't matter. And because they're working with clipping, it sounds good clipped already. Like the idea is like, if it sounds good clipped, then if you're clipping it, what's the you know what I mean? Like, I hope that makes sense. Like, the more clipped it is, if it's already clipped, then it doesn't matter if it already sounded clipped to begin with. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's great. So, but on top of that, you know what I mean? They're like EQing, I'm sure. Poyo. I'm sure they're EQing a little bit. At least the good ones. The good ones. But no, seriously, like clipped music sounds like super clipped, like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I think that that's not entirely it. It's the tasteful amount of clipping, right? It's like getting the clip to sound good, right? Like what sounds when clipped sound good, right? That's the question. And there's some pretty nasty ones, honestly. I'm a huge fan. There's some pretty gross sounds that sound just fucking amazing clipped. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that style of mixing. And that's kind of what I mean by clip to zero in general, is like it's a good starting point for understanding this concept of understanding what the song is going to sound like loud while you're working on it. That's kind of like the ideology behind it, is to have a concept or idea of what your song is going to end up like in the mastering phase, but at the arrangement phase, right? Like that's the whole, or at the very least the mixing phase, right? Maybe not the arrangement phase, but I would say during the arrangement phase for me personally, because that is what I do. But I guess it doesn't have to start there. But anyway, I yapped. We came, we saw, we feefed. We learned about mono systems. All right, we had a wonderful Saxy Future Garage End with 2 X's. Is that how Saxy is spelled? Excuse me. If it is spelled that way, then well, yeah, I guess it's spelled that way. Poyo, some people be doing that. Actually, it's like I would say don't do that, but you should do it once to get the understanding of what it feels like, because I have done that once, and it is a good learning experience. Similarly to making a song without hearing it. The house artist. I don't know. I don't know who that is, but yeah, Monster Cat's pretty dope though. All right. I was into Monster Cat back in like 2000 and was it 8? No, that sounds too early. Maybe it was like 11. 11, maybe 11 was probably when I was into Monster Cat. Yeah, Dino knows. Dino's hip. He knows the way. That's partially wrong though. I think that both is the way. The way is like use your eyes to see what your ears can't, and then use your ears to hear what your eyes can't see. All right. That's the way to go. I can't believe that I just fucking said that shit, but yeah, that's all you need. That's all you need to make music is eyes and ears and hands, hopefully. Anyway, I thank you guys. I'm going to call it here. I'll see you guys next Friday. So don't forget to tune in. And, yeah, I guess hopefully next Friday I'll have Dino back with me. I see him here in chat, though. I appreciate you being here. And I appreciate everybody else for coming through. So, without further ado, peace.